Last Thanksgiving, Calvin sat beside his wife Ruth at their dining room table. She'd been living with Alzheimer's for about 7 years at that point. She was quiet that day, present in body, but seemingly distant, lost in the fog of the disease. The meal came and went. Family members chatted around them. Ruth said almost nothing. But later that evening, when everyone had left and the house grew quiet, Calvin leaned close to his wife and he whispered the words he'd said to her thousands of times over the 5 decades of marriage together. He simply said, "I love you." Ruth turned towards him, her eyes focused briefly but clearly, and she whispered back, "I know." Calvin told me later that was the gift I didn't know I desperately needed. A moment of pure grace, and I'll carry it forever. She was still in there, and she knew she was loved. This is what Thanksgiving looks like when Alzheimer's is part of your story. It's not perfect. It's not like it used to be, but still capable of holding profound beauty along profound loss. I'm Teri, and this is Surviving Alzheimer's with clarity, courage, and care. Welcome to a special Thanksgiving episode. If you're new here, I'm Teri. I'm the founder of Memory Treatment Advisors and Alzheimer's Survivor. For the past 6 years, I've been my mother's study partner through the Leqembi clinical trial. I've navigated through many Thanksgivings that looked nothing like the ones that came before. Holidays where I had to learn, sometimes painfully, how to hold gratitude and grief in the same hand. Because the truth about Alzheimer's during the holidays, you don't get to just feel grateful. And you don't get to just feel sad. You feel both of them simultaneously, often moment to moment. In today's episode, we're going to talk about making space for that complexity, about finding grace for yourself, for your loved one, and for your family members who show up imperfectly for traditions that need to change. We'll talk about why gratitude feels different when you're caregiving. We'll explore the grief that sits beside it. We'll hear stories from families who've walked this path before, and I'll share some of the simple practices that help you navigate whatever this Thanksgiving brings. Whether this is your first Alzheimer's holiday or your 10th, whether you're dreading Thursday or cautiously hopeful this episode is for you. So let's begin. Let me start by saying what gratitude is in Alzheimer's care and what it is not. It is not toxic positivity. It's not pretending the hard parts don't exist. It's not forcing yourself to smile through genuine pain or saying everything happens for a reason when something truly devastating is unfolding. That's not what we're talking about. Gratitude in the midst of this journey is about noticing, truly noticing the moments that still carry meaning, even when they're small and even when they're fleeting. It's the sudden smile when your loved one recognizes your face, even if just for a second. It's a shared song from decades past that lights up their expression. It's a quiet hand squeeze across the Thanksgiving table. It's the way we still reach for their favorite holiday food, even when they can't tell you why it matters. It's a moment of unexpected clarity in the middle of confusion. It's the familiar gesture, the way they tilt their head or laugh at a certain pitch that reminds you they're still in there. These fragments, these tiny, precious fragments of connection, they can coexist with the profound pain that Alzheimer's has taken away. They must coexist because both are true. In our first Thanksgiving, after the point we'd really noticed Mom's memory loss, we tried to make everything the same. We were all there. We prepared all the traditional dishes. We planned a full day of activities, but the meal turned into a disaster. Mom was quickly overwhelmed, and now I realize it was the noise, it was the people, it was the expectations. It was all too much. For some reason that year, she purchased a turkey roll or a turkey loaf. She cooked that turkey loaf 5 different ways. She thought it and baked it as per the instructions, yet it was still raw. So she broiled it at a higher temperature, and it still wasn't right. She microwaved it, and then it was really off. Finally, she sliced it and fried it in a pan. But then at that point, it was simply comical. The turkey that could not be cooked. And trust me, we didn't go hungry. We still had stuffing and mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, squash casserole, broccoli, salad, pecan pie, and of course, there was ice cream and chocolate sauce. Together, as a family, we approached the turkey that shall not be eaten the same way we approached everything else or any other challenge. We laughed about it. We joked loudly. We never were a quiet group. But as we cleaned up and the afternoon turned into evening, Mom retreated. She knew something was wrong. And for the first time, so did I. This year, we celebrated Thanksgiving this last weekend. My sister hosts Thanksgiving now. And Mom and Phil stayed for about 3 hours instead of the whole day. That kept it being too overwhelming for her. She was able to enjoy her favorite comfort foods. We enjoyed our meal and a surprising cowboy win. And you know what? She was present. She was calm. She even cheered the Cowboys on. Afterward, as I worked to walk off the huge scoop of ice cream I enjoyed, I realized gratitude in Alzheimer's care isn't about what used to be. It's about what remains and accepting and enjoying what we have right now. She'll be different next Thanksgiving, and that's okay, because there is always something that remains. Always. Even on the hardest days. Now, let's talk about the grief, because you can't talk about gratitude during Alzheimer's without acknowledging the grief that sits right beside it. There's a term for what Alzheimer's families experience. It's called ambiguous loss. And that term was coined by Dr. Pauline Boss, and it describes the unique grief that happens when someone is physically present but psychologically absent, or gradually becoming so. Your loved one is there. You can see them, you can touch them, you can sit with them at the Thanksgiving table, but pieces of who they were, essential pieces, are slipping away. You might be grieving lost conversations that used to flow effortlessly, the inside jokes that no longer land, or the holiday traditions that have evolved beyond recognition or dissolved entirely. You can grieve the personality traits that were defining them for decades. Their role as the advice giver, the family storyteller, the one who always hosted Thanksgiving, the future you imagined sharing together, grandchildren they might not remember, milestones they won't witness with clarity. And here's what makes the grief so complicated. You're grieving someone who's still alive. People who haven't experienced this don't understand. They might say things like, they're still here, or be grateful you still have them. Yeah, they're still here, but they're incomplete. Because you can be grateful someone is still alive and grieve the person they used to be. Both things are true. Both feelings deserve space. That's where grace comes in. Grace for yourself to feel all of it. The gratitude and the grief. The love and the resentment. The hope and the despair. You don't have to pick one emotion and stick with it. You're allowed to feel contradictory things simultaneously. If you're sitting with this grief right now, if Thanksgiving is stirring up all of these complicated feelings, I want you to know you're not doing it wrong. This is what loving someone through Alzheimer's looks like. It's messy, it's contradictory and heartbreaking and beautiful all at once. And that's okay. Let me tell you about Elaine and her father. Elaine's dad no longer remembers her name. Most days he doesn't recognize her as his daughter. And when she visits him at the memory care facility, he's polite, but he's distant, treating her more like a friendly stranger. And it breaks her heart every single time. But every Thanksgiving, Elaine bakes a pumpkin pie from scratch. It's her grandmother's recipe, the one her father grew up eating every holiday. And every Thanksgiving, when she brings that pie to the facility, something shifts. His eyes light up, not with recognition of Elaine necessarily, but with something deeper. It's memory held not in his mind, but in his senses. It's the smell of cinnamon and nutmeg, the texture of the crust, the taste that connects him to his mother, to his childhood, to Thanksgivings from 70 years ago. Elaine told me he can't tell me the story anymore. He can't talk about how his mother made this exact pie every Thanksgiving of his childhood, but I remember it for both of us now. The pie still connects us, even when words can't. That's her Thanksgiving blessing. A fork full of pie, a spark of joy in his eyes, the connection that transcends language and memory. It's not the Thanksgiving they used to have. Her father used to carve the turkey. He used to tell jokes. He used to hold court at the head of the table, regaling everyone with stories. Now, it's a piece of pie in a small room at a care facility. And for Elaine, it's everything. And that's what I mean when I talk about gratitude amid loss. Elaine isn't pretending her father's fine. She's not denying the magnitude of what Alzheimer's has stolen. But she's found a way to honor what remains. And in doing so, she creates a moment of grace for both of them. So let's talk about how you actually practice grace during the holidays, because it's one thing to talk about conceptually, it's another thing to do it when you're exhausted and overwhelmed, and families scheduled to arrive in 3 hours. First, grace for yourself. You need to give yourself permission. explicit permission to feel whatever you're feeling. If you're dreading Thanksgiving, that's okay. If you're angry that this disease has stolen your holidays, that's okay. If you're feeling resentful toward family members who don't help as much as you think they should, that's okay. You do not have to perform gratitude. You don't have to pretend that everything is fine. You don't owe anyone a perfect attitude. What you do need to do is witness your own feelings with compassion. Notice them, acknowledge them, and let them exist without judgment. Maybe it's, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, and that makes sense given what I'm carrying. Maybe you feel, I'm feeling sad about different holiday Thanksgiving looks. That's a valid response to real loss. Maybe you say, I'm feeling grateful for this small moment of connection, and I'm going to let myself fully experience it. Second, grace for your loved one. They didn't choose this. They're not trying to ruin the holiday. They're navigating something we can't fully comprehend. It's the gradual loss of self, the confusion, the fear. Meet them where they are, not where you wish they were, not where they used to be, but where they are right now in this moment. If they're overwhelmed, simplify the occasion. If they're agitated, remove stimulation. If they're calm and present, savor it without trying to extend it beyond its natural length. Third is grace for family members. And this is a hard one. It is hard. Some relatives will avoid visiting because watching the disease's progression is too painful for them. Others will say clumsy, hurtful things without meaning to, telling you, look on the bright side, or asking why you seem so stressed when your loved one seems perfectly fine to them. Some will help less than you think they should. Some will criticize the choices you're making. Grace doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior. You can set boundaries. You can speak up. You can ask people to leave if they're making things worse. But grace does mean recognizing that everyone is doing the best they can with the emotional tools that they have available right now. Some people don't have the capacity to sit with this kind of loss. Some people protect themselves through distance or denial. That's about their limitations, not your worth. You can feel hurt by their absence or their inadequacy, and you can also choose not to spend Thanksgiving trying to change them or convince them to show up differently. Your energy is finite. Spend it on what actually matters. And that might be creating the best possible experience for your loved one and taking time for yourself to process it. Okay, so let's get practical. Here are 5 simple gratitude practices that you can use this Thanksgiving and throughout the holiday season. Practice 1. Name one daily gift throughout the next few weeks. Spend just 60 seconds each evening noting one thing you're grateful for, and write it down if it helps. That helps me. Say it out loud. Just name it. And it can be something tiny like, Mom smiled when I played her favorite song today. Dad ate his entire lunch. Or I took a 20-minute walk for myself. You're training your brain to notice the small moments of light, even when the overall picture feels dark. Practice 2. Share memories at the table. If you're gathering with family, invite each person to share one favorite holiday memory involving your loved one. It doesn't matter if your loved one remembers the story or not. The act of speaking their history aloud honors who they were. It keeps their fuller self alive in the collective memory, and it gives everyone permission to acknowledge both who they were and who they are now. Practice 3. Create a comfort ritual. Establish something brief and meaningful, maybe lighting a candle before the meal for those who have passed. Play your loved one's favorite seasonal songs, or take a collective moment of silence to acknowledge both presence and absence. Ritual gives a shape to complicated emotions, and it creates a container for grief and gratitude to coexist. Practice 4. Release perfection. And this is a big one. Give yourself permission to simplify everything. Order part of the meal or the entire meal. Use paper plates. Skip elaborate decorations. Shorten the gathering. Reduce the guest list. The holiday does not require perfection. It requires presence. Your loved one doesn't need a flawless Thanksgiving. They need you to be calm, patient, and available. Practice 5. Document the moment. Take pictures. Record short video clips. Write down fragments of conversations. These become precious evidence of connection as memory continues to fade. Not for social media, not to prove anything to anyone, just for you, for later, when you need to remember that beauty existed alongside loss. Before we close, I want to speak directly to anyone for whom gratitude feels completely out of reach right now. Maybe this is your first Thanksgiving after the diagnosis. You very well might be drowning in grief. Maybe your loved one is in late-stage disease and you're exhausted beyond measure. Maybe you've just moved them into a care facility and you're carrying crushing guilt. Maybe you're just done. Maybe you're tired of trying to find the silver lining, tired of trying to be strong. If that's you, you're not failing. Grief is not a problem to solve. It's not a mood to fix. Sometimes the most authentic practice is simply to witness your own pain with compassion. You do not owe anyone forced cheerfulness. You can say, "This year is really hard." You can skip traditions that feel too painful. You can cry through the entire meal if that's what you feel. This season will pass. The intensity of whatever you're feeling right now, whether it's overwhelming grief or unexpected joy, is temporary. It will shift and it will evolve. And here's what I want you to remember. Your loved one doesn't need you to perform gratitude. They simply need your presence, your patient, loving attention to whom they are right now. That's enough. You're showing up even when it's hard. And that's enough. So here's what I want you to take with you this Thanksgiving. You don't have to choose between gratitude and grief. They're not opposites. They're companions on this impossible journey. Gratitude doesn't erase loss. It just acknowledges that even in profound darkness, light flickers. It still exists. Grief doesn't cancel gratitude. It honors the depth of your love and the magnitude of what's been taken. Together, they create space for grief, for yourself navigating impossible circumstances, for your loved one moving through this stage of life, for the sacred, imperfect journey you're traveling together. You don't have to do this perfectly. You just have to keep showing up with love. If you need support navigating emotional and practical dimensions of Alzheimer's caregiving, especially during the holidays, I'm here. At Memory Treatment Advisors, I work with families to find the meaning and balance in the midst of this journey. We do it with compassion, clarity, and a generous measure of grace. You can book a free 10-minute clarity call on memorytreatmentadvisors.com. Just click the schedule button or call me. You can reach me at 214-924-6102. And to everyone who's listening and facing a challenging Thanksgiving this year, I see you. I know how hard it is. I know this better than many people. You need to know you're doing this better than you think. May you find grace for both your grief and your gratitude. May you extend grace to yourself and the ones you love. Thank you for letting me into your Thanksgiving week. If this episode helped you, please share it with another caregiver who might need to hear it. Until next time, I'm Teri. Happy Thanksgiving.